In classic mid-season finale form, the last new episode of The Good Doctor in 2021 provided some huge new twists for the hospital, as well as some discoveries that had undoubtedly been a long time coming in Season 5. In this video, we look at what caused Shaun to explode and alter his wedding plans with Leah. There is a lot to break down, so let's get started. Let's talk about this game-changing episode. Everything broke apart after an avoidable tragedy occurred despite the best efforts of some Saint Bonaventure's greatest doctors, including Shaun. It was sad for the characters, and it's possible that by the time Season 5 comes to 2022, things will have changed drastically. Expired got off to a promising start, which should have been the first sign that things were about to turn bad by the time the credits rolled. Shaun was committed to Alma's care throughout the hour after a trip to check out a prospective wedding site turned into Shaun executing a miracle rescue on a pregnant woman named Alma, with Leah offering help. Unfortunately, problems with an eventual C-section meant that although doctors were able to save Alma's life, the medications needed to save the baby had expired. The wedding is canceled. Shaun had a nervous breakdown in the drugstore as a result of his sadness and anguish over the baby's loss, and he wasn't the only one in the autumn finale who was pushed to the limit. Because the show won't be returning for a long time to tell what happens next, let's recap what transpired before the drugstore scene and what the tragedy's aftermath implies for the program's future. Because Leah revealed that she went to see Glassman in Montana and, more damningly, changed Shaun's finding from the patient's evaluations after the algorithm made him appear like he was failing, Shaun was already in a heightened emotional state even before the baby died. Shaun didn't seem to mind that she lied about the Montana trip, but manipulating the findings was too much for him. He asked that she reverse the findings. When she refused, he urged that she tell Salen the truth, even suggesting that she deserved to be fired for breaching the rules. If it hadn't been for the catastrophe during the C-section, the dispute could have died out. When she approached him during the drugstore breakdown, he yelled that he couldn't marry her because he couldn't trust her. He sobbed into Glassman's arms at the end of the show, and Leah could only watch. It's hard to think that the long-running tale of Leah and Shaun has come to an end with the Season 5 autumn finale, but Leah obviously crossed a red line for Shaun, and it's doubtful that he'll reverse his mind anytime soon unless there's a time leap. Dr. Glassman is here to stay. By the end of the episode, it was evident that Glassman was abandoning his plans to go to Montana. Albeit he appeared to have reached that conclusion before learning of the baby's death, his ex-wife, of all people, delivered the speech he needed to hear about how Shaun needed him, not the other way around. And honestly, we believe Shaun emotionally ranting about Glassman failing as a best man and then breaking down and sobbing would have persuaded him to remain, even if he still wanted to leave, before walking in on him breaking down in the drugstore. Even yet, in 2022, their relationship will require some repair. One of Shaun's claims against Glassman was that the infant would not have died if he had been in control of the hospital instead of Salen. It is feasible that this will push Glassman to try to reclaim some authority at St. Bonaventure, if that is even possible. He's been at the hospital long enough to have made the type of friends Salen hasn't yet, and the baby's death isn't going to endear her to any other physicians. After all, Shaun appeared to find a lot of expired medications at the pharmacy. Thus, Salen's cost-cutting may have impacted more patients in more departments across the hospital. It's obvious that Dr. Lim is fed up with the drama. Dr. Lim isn't the most flamboyant doctor at St. Bonaventure, but she loves profoundly about her patients and appeared to be just as sad as Shaun after the tragedy, albeit in very different ways. While Shaun battled with his emotions in the pharmacy, Lim addressed Salen and informed her straight out that a baby had died because the hospital didn't have enough medication owing to Salen's cost-cutting. When Alma awoke and learned what had occurred, she urged the hospital owner to call her attorneys, leading Salen to counsel discretion so that the tragedy wouldn't derail everything we do here. The Good Doctor didn't portray Salen as a cackling evil, since she was deeply saddened by her death, and Lim seemed to recognize that everyone, including herself and the people, had been exposed as a result of what had transpired. While it appears like Liam isn't about to go to the press and explain everything to Alma, it's also reasonable to assume that she isn't going to give Salen the benefit of the doubt moving ahead. If Glassman were to conduct an administrative revolution, she'd definitely be on board with him. Dr. Murphy might suffer some serious consequences. Shaun was not only yelling at Glassman and Leah at the drugstore, he was also trashing all of the expired medications he discovered and making a huge mess. He came to a halt before creating too much havoc. Although it's likely that his fury wreaked havoc, the pharmacist was present, so the matter wasn't going to go away simply because Leah and Glassman kept it quiet. Could Shaun suffer repercussions as a result of his actions? Salin is the most likely person to penalize Shaun for destroying the expired medications, yet she seems horrified by what happened to the infant, so she could be merciful. Lim, of course, outranks him, but I believe Lim would be on his side if he needed to express his displeasure over what had transpired. Given all of the personal and emotional issues he'll be dealing with in the future, I'm hoping he won't have to cope with any professional penalties. On that front, only time will tell, and there are many more variables to consider. Morgan has gone above and above to build an alliance with the new hospital owner, and Dr. Andrews is all in on his friendship with Salin. Park, for one, is dedicated to his connection with Morgan. If it comes down to choosing sides for or against Salin in the aftermath of the tragedy, it will be interesting to watch where the lines are drawn. Now, in other The Good Doctor news. Did you know Paige Spara auditioned for her role in the bathroom? Paige Spara, who plays Shaun's future fiancée and fiancée Leah, was supposed to be a guest actress but quickly became a series regular. Despite having to tape her audition for the show from her parents' bathroom, she was successful. Spara also didn't have a stable internet connection, no access to a computer or printer, and low lighting. She still got the part. I admired my mom so much that day. With her support, I was able to remain cool and connected, and it helped me realize who Leah was, she told The Blast afterward. The portrayal of autism in The Good Doctor has been ridiculed. Before scripting The Good Doctor, David Shore conducted an extensive study on autism spectrum disorder, telling a TCA panel via Deadline that the writers had in fact visited a lot of physicians and gathered a team of people on the spectrum to help them ensure they were creating Dr. Murphy's character correctly. Despite this, experts and neurodivergent authors have criticized the medical drama for portraying ASD patients as largely awkward white male geniuses, as well as seeing Shaun's disability and problems as a superpower similar to other popular media such as Rain Man. According to The Conversation, one genuine autistic doctor appreciates the program, but remarked that many autistics have extraordinary empathy, not a separation from others, as the series implies, and hoped it represented more of a spectrum of behavior in autism spectrum disorder. Autistic writer Sarah Lutterman lauded Shaun's compassion as a handicapped character for Slate, saying that even if it frequently appears to be by mistake, on the side of the neurotypical creative team. In the end, the series got both praise and harsh criticism from the autistic community. Master FX does an incredible job of making things look realistic. The Good Doctor, like other medical dramas, isn't always accurate in depicting actual hospital processes, but it has to portray operations and horrible injuries in a realistic manner, or it won't seem convincing. This is where Masters FX, a visual effects firm, comes in. Masters FX works on the bodies that are shown during operations in order to make them seem as realistic as possible. If the actors need to be dissecting, cutting, or suturing something in the body, artist Laurie Sandness told VFX Voice, "We want to make it easy for them to be able to perform the action as close to the script as possible." The crew also consults with the show's medical advisors and uses real-life surgery videos as reference points. Fans will have to wait a little longer for The Good Doctor to return. The program was not included in ABC's list of shows with mid-season launch dates, and it isn't likely to return with new episodes until mid-2022. It'll be intriguing to see whether The Good Doctor incorporates a time leap between the mid-season finale in November and when it returns in a few months. Thanks for tuning in.